shadows where the silence speaks. I walk the line where the lost souls seek, with whispers of hope and a guiding light. I'll search the dark, bring the truth to light. I'm a seeker of the unseen, bridging worlds where the heart has been. With every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find the way, I'll draw you near. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. I'm a seeker of the unseen, bridging worlds where the heart has been. With every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find the way, I'll draw you near. Hope is fading, I won't let go. I'll be your compass, your guiding glow. Together we'll break through the darkest night. For every lost soul, I'll bring back the light. I'm a seeker of the unseen, bridging worlds where the heart has been. With every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find a way, I'll draw you near. I'm a seeker of the unseen, I'm bridging worlds where the heart has been. Where the heart, with every heartbeat, every tear, I'll find a way, I'll draw you near. Draw you near. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. Through the echoes of the past I tread, unlocking stories of the words unsaid. With every vision I'll stand my ground. In the name of love, the lost will be found. When hope is fading, I won't let go. I'll be your compass, your guiding glow. Together we'll break through the darkest night. For every lost soul, I'll bring back the light. When hope is fading, I won't let go. I'll be your compass, your guiding glow. Together we'll break through the darkest night. For every lost soul, I'll bring back the light.
Hey guys, and welcome back to the Psychic Sleuth channel. So, been trying to get caught up on videos and whatnot because I've been so busy with everything. But all the ways to support me are down below. If you choose to support the channel, it's sincerely appreciated, and it helps me continue this work without the stress that it brings sometimes. And also, I have 2 new decks out. If you're interested, you can see information on the community page. But it's a true crime oracle, forensic true crime oracle deck because I try to make it forensically based. There's still more cards that need to come, so there's going to be add-on decks that I'm going to try to make affordable. And the sassy kind of rebellish deck. It's called the Mayhem and Magic deck, but it is, if you like the Rebel deck, you're going to love this. It's sassy truth with a little bit of humor and telling you how it is and cussing even. So it puts a little bit of a sass into it. Like, again, the Rebel deck does the same thing. It's very similar to that. So if you're interested in those, the ways to get that is in the link tree below. And if you have any questions, you can always email me about that as well. I'm happy to help. Okay, so today I'm going into something a little different. I did do a Jack the Ripper reading on Halloween not long ago. I did bring out some information that, I feel like was very important. And I'll get more into that as to it's been validated in this. I've actually done more of a deep dive and kind of validated with some astrology. I'm in no way an astrologist, but I do try to use that to the best of my ability. With studying it to kind of validate what I get. And so I do try to double and triple check everything so that I can give you the most accurate information that's possible. So I'm going to go into the real Jack the Ripper today. This is for entertainment purposes only. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And I am going to explain this because it's very, very interesting. It's very complex. It's more complex than what people think. Jack the Ripper wasn't just one person in the long run. And there was visions that now I understand that support this and back it up that I got in the original reading. And so I want to just break everything down for you. And here it is. I'm going to, revisit it. I'm going to read it for you. I'll try to read it as slow as I can. But as you know, I work at the speed of spirit. And there is a video in the description box of how I work. There's a link there if you would like to know more about that to try to understand it a little bit more. So this is all written up. I'm just going to do the best so that I don't forget anything to read it to you. All right. For over 130 years, the case of Jack the Ripper has baffled historians, criminologists, and even psychic investigators. But as I worked through this case spiritually, I received a very specific sequence of information that Spirit laid out very clearly. And I want to walk you through how I was able to validate and confirm who Jack the Ripper really was and why the killings happened the way that they did. Before I get into this case, I want to be very clear about how I worked this investigation. When I first did my readings, Jack the Ripper, I went into completely blind. I intentionally did no research beforehand. I simply asked Spirit to show me what they wanted me to see. Only after I received my psychic impressions did I begin to look at the historical facts. And what I found was that many of the details Spirit gave me directly matched events, timelines, and information that I hadn't even known yet. Those things include things like suicide, the medical connections, and the specific details we'll go through today. When I originally read this case, the one thing that Spirit kept pushing very strongly was suicide. During my reading, Spirit showed me something very clear and very specific. I saw a man jumping off a bridge, and that was Spirit's way of confirming the suicide was likely the key piece in identifying him. Later, as I researched, I learned that Montague John Druitt's body was recovered from Thames River after his suicide. Spirit also brought me impressions tied to a cemetery, which made sense because his family later buried him back in Dorset. These were very strong spiritual validations that aligned exactly with historical facts. That this person had taken their own life very shortly after the final murder, and that his death was spiritually tied to the ending of the killings. Spirit also kept showing me a medical connection, whether it was through the person's profession or their family, but I felt medical fields strongly tied to the energy of the killer. It wasn't just random violence, it was obsessive, methodical, and almost ritualistic, like someone trying to control or dissect the body itself. When I cross-referenced what Spirit was giving me, it led directly to Montague John Druitt, who committed suicide in December of 1888, just a few weeks after the final chronicle murder. Druitt himself wasn't a doctor. He came from a family of surgeons, which directly matches the medical energy Spirit had given me. The timing of his suicide perfectly aligns with the karmic closure of the Ripper killings, and energetically, it was shown to me as a spiritual collapse after the obsession was fulfilled. As I worked deeper into the pattern, Spirit revealed that Mary Kane Kelly was also intended target. The other victims were essentially surrogates, building up to her. And I talked about this in the reading, that the very last person that he unalived was his real, the real one that he wanted all along. The real victim. She represented independence, sexuality, and autonomy. And energetically, that triggered Druitt's internal control issues, shame, and masculine wound. When he finally unalived Mary Jane Kelly, the most brutal, intimate, and private of all the killings, the energetic contract was fulfilled. His suicide followed soon after, which Spirit showed me as a karmic conclusion. The astrology perfect supported what Spirit was giving. Montague John Druitt's chart showed obsessive Virgo energy, control over the body, duality, hidden sexual wounds, and eventual collapse. The crime chart, particularly for Mary Jane Kelly, revealed control, ritual escalation, and karmic finality. His Pluto, Uranus, and Virgo placements aligned perfectly with the murder charts, reinforcing his energetic imprint through the killings. I was able to track not just one murder, but the escalation pattern leading up to Mary Jane Kelly, who was always the final intended victim. It's possible that while Montague John Druitt carried out the core killings up to and including Mary Jane Kelly, others like Aaron I can never say his name, Komosky, may have been present in the area afterward or became entangled in the hysteria. Some believe later victims may involve copycat elements and minor DNA connections could result from environmental contact, not from actual commission of the killings themselves. Now, during my reading, Spirit also brought up the name Aaron, which led to Aaron Kosmaninsky, a name frequently mentioned by historians due to some disputed DNA claims. But Spirit showed me that Aaron's name was more about the confusion that exists in the case, not because he was the true killer. Kosminski likely had mental health issues, and may have been an unstable person nearby. But the spiritual contract of the killings, the ritualized obsession, and the final collapse all point back to Druitt, not Kosminski. Historically, some dismissed Druitt because they believed he may have had an alibi during one of the earlier murders, but as I worked this case psychically and astrologically, it became clear that so-called alibi was never solid. The truth is, most of the suspicions around Druitt didn't surface until after his suicide, and there was never definitive proof he was elsewhere at the time of any murder. Spirit continued to validate Druitt's energetic imprint was present throughout the full sequence, and that his suicide marked the karmic closure. For me, Jack the Ripper case was never about piecing together evidence. It was about following the energetic contract Spirit revealed. The obsession, the ritualized killings, the final target, and the karmic release. All of it led to Montague John Druitt. This is why Spirit kept showing me the suicide from the very beginning. It was never just a clue, it was a spiritual endpoint. Serial killers can and often do operate in overlapping territories, especially in high crime urban areas, like Whitechapel in the late 1800s. This model completely supported the modern criminal forensics, Long Island, Vancouver, and even Bundy timelines. Now, one of the biggest arguments people bring up when talking about Jack the Ripper is the DNA evidence that supposedly connects Aaron to the murders. But when Spirit first brought me to this case, they actually showed me both names. I was seeing Montague John Druitt and Aaron, but in very different ways. As I worked through it, Spirit began to show me why this confusion exists. Druitt was the orchestrator, the one who actually carried out the killings, especially in the five. I can never say that word. But I kept seeing Aaron almost lurking in the background, someone who was mentally unstable, obsessive, and drawn to the killings. What I just said a little bit earlier. I'm going to elaborate. What Spirit showed me as I worked on this was that Aaron may have had been present or nearby during at least one of the murders, watching from the shadows as the killings took place. After the murders, particularly after Catherine Eddowes, I was shown a very strong vision of Aaron approaching the scene after the killer had already left in my vision. I saw him approaching and even sniffing and handling the Shaw as it was left behind, almost as part of his own disturbed ritual. This kind of post-murder contamination could explain how the mitochondrial DNA ended up on the Shaw that was later tested. His presence may have been energetic and physical at the time at the crime scene, but that does not mean he was the actual killer. Spirit made it very clear that while Druitt was the karmic contract holder for the Ripper murders, Aaron became entangled energetically, not just as the orchestrator, but as the unstable, obsessive bystander who may have mimicked or acted out his own violence later on. That's why both names came forward, and that's why DNA appears, but it doesn't actually prove Aaron was the Ripper. But Spirit just didn't stop there. As I continued to work this case, I was shown that Aaron's involvement may have ended up simply with being present during the original Ripper murders. After Montague John Druitt committed suicide, which spiritually ended the original Ripper contract, there were additional killings in Whitechapel that took place over the following years. These later murders were often called the Whitechapel murders, and many historians have believed, debated whether or not they were actually part of the Ripper's series. What Spirit showed me, and what the astrology supports, is that Aaron may have been responsible for one or more of those later murders. For one case in particular stands out, the murder of Francis Coles in February of 1891. The murder was similar to the victim's throat was cut, but there was none of the extreme mutilation or ritual patterns that were present in the original Ripper killings. It felt simpler, more impulsive, and more aligned with Kosmansky's unstable mental state than Druitt's highly ritualized work. In this way, it's possible that now I'm coughing. Go figure. In this way, it's possible that Aaron, who was mentally unwell and obsessed with the earlier murders, stepped into the energy of the Ripper hysteria and committed a copycat killing after Druitt's death. Spiritually, this explains why Kamansky's energy kept appearing in the case. He was present during some of the original murders, but not the killer. He was tied energetically and physically to the crime scenes, and he may have carried out copycat killings during the hysteria that followed. This was also why historians and even modern science have struggled to separate the layers of this case over 130 years. One of the reasons this case has stayed confusing even for psychics, historians, and forensic experts is because there isn't just one layer here. What Spirit showed me was that there's spiritual storm. A layered energy filled with multiple individuals became entangled in different ways. First, there was Montague John Druitt, the Karmic orchestrator who carried out the ritualized Ripper murders, ending with Mary Jane Kelly. Then there was Aaron Kamansky, who was mentally unstable and obsessively drawn towards the crimes present around some of the original murders, possibly contaminating crime scene objects like Catherine Eddowes' shawl, and likely responsible for at least one copycat killing afterwards. Finally, there were others, unstable opportunists who acted out additional murders under the hysteria of the Ripper legend, feeding off the public fear and confusion that followed for years. Spirit has made it very clear that this was never simple of one suspect or one killer. This was layered karmic event that pulled multiple unstable individuals into its energy field. And this is exactly why the world has debated this case for over a century, because most people have been trying to force a simple answer into a multi-layered truth. The serial killer storm example. And to help put this into perspective, we've seen this kind of layered energy field happen in other points of history as well. For example, during the 1970s in the United States, we saw an epidemic of serial killers operating simultaneously. People like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, BTK, Zodiac, Kemper, Son of Sam, Hillside Stranglers, Dean Corll, and many others, all active within overlapping time. These kinds of patterns happen because sometimes it's not just one person, it's an energetic opening, a karmic storm that draws multiple unstable individuals into violent patterns at the same time. This is what Spirit showed me was happening in the Whitechapel during the time of Jack the Ripper. Druid opened the original karmic contract. Kosmowski became entangled and obsessed, eventually mimicking, and others followed after, feeding off the energy that's already been unleashed. And this is why this case remains so confusing for so long, because the world has been trying to force a single linear explanation into a layered spiritual event. So I hope that kind of ties everything together from my original reading, and this is my take on what Spirit gave me and what the astrology says. And people don't understand how things like this can spread, darkness can spread, and the energetic imprints can feed off of one another. So that's why, pick up more than one name, etc. So I hope that this helped explain some of that, and I hope it kind of summarizes it all for you guys. And this is the answer to the mystery that I think many have wondered for years, in my opinion.